Hey guys, welcome back to Ravenclaw Reads. I'm Courtney and today I'm going to go over my July wrap up. So for the month of July, I ended up reading 18 books. I don't know how I got through that many because I really struggled towards the middle of the month and the end of the month with a reading slump, but I got a good amount of books read and a fair amount of variety of books. In July, I also decided to reread the Babysitter's Club from the beginning. And I'm just noticing on my tracker that I missed putting in Christy's Great Idea, which is going to mess up my whole tracking system. Those that track your books, you know, like it's going to be a whole thing. So anyway, let's talk about the books that I read. So I started off the month reading Hot Pot Murder by Jennifer J. Chow. This is the second book in her series. It's the LA Night Market Mystery Series. The first one was the Death by Bubble Tea. I ended up giving Hot Pot Murder 4 stars. I actually liked it more than Death by Bubble Tea. And I think that's because, in my opinion, first in the series of a cozy mystery often is a lot of like building up the characters or the scene, and it's not so much a developed story in my opinion. So I gave that 4 stars. I don't remember much about the who done it, what for, and what and why and all that, but I did like it. Then I finished up The Ashes and The Cursed King. This is the second book in the Crowns and Yaksa novels. I ended up giving that only 2 stars. And I think I said this in the wrap up, which if you are wanting more detailed descriptions of each of these books, please check out my weekly reading vlogs. Those come out on Sundays, and that's when I usually have talked about the book throughout the week as I'm reading it. This wrap up is just that, a wrap up of what I did this month. So in this book, I really felt like at the time I was trying to get it done, and I had started a chunk, stopped, started a chunk and stopped. And so I did give it 2 stars, but to be fair, I wasn't reading that straight through. And my rating could have been affected because of that. The first book I gave 4 stars, so it could definitely have been affected by that. Then I read Nora Goes Off Script. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This feels so long ago, but this was a really cute story about Nora, who is a writer and starts dating a movie star who is using her land to to film a movie that she has, the screenplay that she's written. And the romance is really cute. It was like a grown folks romance, which I really appreciated. The only thing that left it a 4 star instead of a 5 star was the twist at the end on why they had their third act breakup. Did not love that. And then I read Babysitter's Club number 63, Claudia's Friend by Anne M. Martin. I gave this 3 stars, which is as low as I can give a Babysitter's Club book because I've already read them. So since I'm rereading them, I feel like they at least get a 3. And this book, I don't remember much about it, but it's a 3, which tells me I didn't love it. And then after that, I read Marianne's Makeover. So during this time is when I decided that I was going to start branching out on the Babysitter's Club books, because I started reading all the Claudia and Stacey books. Claudia and Stacey were not my favorite when I was a kid reading them. I actually loved Mallory and Marianne. But as an adult, going back to reread them, Claudia and Stacey's books are way more drama-filled. There's a lot more happening. And so I had run through all of those. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and read Marianne's Makeover. I ended up rating this 5 stars. So I really liked this story because it gave a different side of Babysitter's Club. And Marianne gets a makeover in this story. And everybody in the club has their own reaction to her makeover, and none of it is supportive. And so Marianne kind of has to forge her way. And I love seeing this evolution of Marianne because that's not her normal way. And it's an interesting perspective to see the other babysitters not really be her friend. And so I just kind of liked that dichotomy. Then I read You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Bayron. I did not love this one. It was a spooky story about a girl and her friends who kind of run this like haunted experience out in the woods. and it just didn't hit for me. I can't even identify what I didn't like about it so much, but I didn't love it. Then I finished up reading Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This is a middle grade fantasy series. I ended up giving that 3 stars. It was just okay to me. However, I do have the second book in this series that I'll get to. I'm in no rush. But the problem with this one for me was that there was just so many new characters introduced and so much of a new world. And this is one of those fantasies where it's like every word means something different and different. It was just hard to follow. I also started and stopped this one because I believe I started this in June, or maybe I started it. Yeah, I started in June after middle grade May. And it only got 3 stars for me. Then I I read the Happily Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. I loved that. I gave it 4 stars. And this is a part of that same series that The Friend Zone is in. And I thought it was really cute. I really like the way Abby Jimenez writes in general. And so that's my 3rd book of hers that I've read, and I have really enjoyed my time reading Abby Jimenez. Her books kind of follow a similar trope in this romance. It's usually a Labrador guy with a grumpy girl. And this book followed that same trope. And so we had our Labrador guy who was connecting with this girl. I think this is the one where there's a dog missing. And is it that one? Anyway, there's a dog involved. Yeah, I think it's the dog is missing. And they kind of share custody of taking care of that dog because he is a pop star and he's on the road a lot. She finds his dog and ends up taking care of it and forming a connection with the dog even when he comes back in, and then he and her start falling in love with each other. I did not give this 5 stars because the one thing about Abby Jimenez books is like she writes amazing book boyfriends, and every girl in the book I've encountered has been so annoying. And so there were some tropes that I just did not love about our female character, but it's still a solid book and I recommend it. Next up, I read 2 Babysitters Club books back to back. I read Christy's Great Idea and Claudia and the Phantom Phone Calls, and I gave both of those 5-star books. It was about mid-month that I decided I was going to go back through the entire Babysitters Club series and start from the beginning. Part of this was because I had won an online auction for some of the classic cover books, and I decided I was going to build out my entire Babysitters Club collection, which I'm almost there, about 20 books off from the original covers. And that 20 does not include all of the mysteries and the super specials, but it's a great start. So I decided I was going to start from the beginning, and I really enjoyed this journey. I'm now on book 7, but reading the first 2 books and reading all of these early books intentionally has been a great experience, and I'm beginning to love the characters again, finding reasons why I've been so intrigued by this series for so many years. I mean, over 30 years at this point, right? And so it's it's a really good series. And so I'm really enjoying this ride. So both of those got 5 stars. Then I read the Rom-Com Agenda by Jane Dinker. Ended up giving this 3 stars. This one was just mid. It literally was a rom-com agenda. It was everything you would think a rom-com would have in the book, and it was almost too cliche, so that's why I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the 2nd book in that Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and I wasn't sure if I was going to read it, but I really did enjoy it. I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. Here's the thing with that, though. It did end up being a lot like the first one, and so I have been on a couple sequels like that now. I think I have another one in here. No, I've had a couple of sequels like that at this point that have been very close to the first one, and so it's you read the sequel and it's exactly copy paste, just change names and dates, and that's how that book was. So 3.75 because it kept me intrigued, kept me going. And it lost points for being very similar to the last book. Then out of nowhere, I read Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. This book was so good. I gave it 5 stars. It is a thriller. I've talked about it a lot on my channel, so I will just say again, it is about a woman who is in a halfway house after having some struggles with addiction. Her sponsor tells her that he's got a job opportunity for her, and she's got to keep the job in order to stay at the halfway house, otherwise she's going to be homeless. And so she gets the job, and there's weird vibes from the beginning, but one of the issues is that the child draws these really creepy pictures of his imaginary friend, and yeah, it goes from there. I highly suggest it. It is creepy though, and I don't usually get creeped out by books. I also don't read a ton of thrillers, but anything like eerie to me is more scary than like blood and guts, and so this is very eerie. And so if that's not your vibe, don't read it, but if you kind of want to be spooked, that's the book for you. I didn't have like a problem reading it at night or falling asleep, but it did give me pause of like, maybe I'll hold off on reading the next chapter until the morning. So definitely worth it. Then I decided to reread The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I read this about 2 or 3 years ago, and I wanted to see if I would give it the same rating. I also love Christina Lauren as a writing duo and wanted to read something fun because I was struggling to find things to keep my attention toward the end of the month. So I picked this up. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I gave it 4 stars the first time around. Very enjoyable, got a little bit long. Third act breakup was a little not necessary. But overall pretty good. Then I read, you guys, I missed another book on my tracker. This hurts. So here's the thing. I showed this before. I track all the books that I'm reading here for the year. And then for the month, I have like just my July reads, right? Well, I did not add on here book 1 or book 3 of, so I guess I read 20 books this month and not 18, but in order to add them, I have to add them sort of at the end now. Anyway, first world organized problems. Okay, so then I read book 3, The Truth About Stacy, and book 4, Marianne Saves the Day. I gave both of these 3s, and I read Dawn of the Impossible 3. So let's just talk about all 3 of those. I gave all 3 of those just 3s. So Truth About Stacy, I talked about this. It was fine. The only thing that was wrong with it was a personal thing, which was that these next books in the line are ones that were done for the Netflix show, which is pretty recent. And then Reagan has been reading the graphic novels of these. So I was like, I just read The Truth About Stacy and had just watched the show about it. And it was very close to the original version. So towards the end, I kind of started to skim and lose interest because I had just been overexposed to the same story. Marianne Saves the Day. I gave 3, maybe 4 stars because this book is really good, but it also enlightens us on Mr. Spear and like how he is as a parent and as a dad, and like it's low-key oppressive, and I'm nervous for Marianne, and I'm glad that he got remarried and like all the things. There's lots of red flags about Mr. Spear. I know people have warm feelings for him, but like this book really made me feel uncomfortable in the way that he was handling Marianne, the restrictions he put on, but also just like the emotional labor that she has to carry for him was just like a lot. And then Dawn of the Impossible 3, I talked about, it was almost impossible for me to get through because I don't like Dawn as a character. And I didn't like Christy, but I just finished Christy's Big Day and my mind has changed on that. But Dawn is not one of my favorite characters. And this book is all about Dawn and Christy. And at the time I was like, these are 2 characters that I don't need to hear about. I don't need to be in space with, and here I am. So it got a 3, but I'm hopeful to read more books with Dawn and sort of like better engage with the character and see if there's anything in there that I can run with, because she's in there for quite a while. And then the last book I read in July was Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. I ended up giving this 3 stars as well. It was just okay. In my opinion, it was a nice, cozy romance, but there were some things in there that just I didn't love, such as the way they met, and some of the miscommunication. And so not my favorite, but I'm glad that I read it because it was on my list of things to read, and now it's done. So those are the 20 books, not 18. Those are the 20 books that I read in the month of July. Comment down below if you've read any of these books. I will try to put the covers on. If you don't see the covers, just know my computer decided that wasn't going to happen. And so we'll try to do that. And then, yeah, I'll link my Goodreads in the bottom if you're interested in checking that out. Otherwise, that's it. And I will see you guys on Sunday with my weekly reading vlog. And we will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.